All right, welcome to Coffee Cafe. Finally, we are done with everything that we've learned or need to learn for this class case study that we can complete together. It's going to reinforce everything that you learned from the last 9 to 10 weeks. Okay, so we're going to be doing a lot of memory digging here. Okay, so here's the introduction to Coffee Cafe. So yesterday, we gave a brief introduction that Bob Mason is one of our friends, and he decided to open up a little miniature coffee shop in his local neighborhood. So he asked you to intern for him as a bookkeeper slash accountant. Okay, and he has $30,000 to invest into his company. Okay, so here it says right here, set up your chart of accounts, general journal, and general ledger accounts. So in this case, right, we've already done so, right? I have the calendar of what is to expect to come for this month of activities that we're going to be doing, okay? So we officially are going to start opening our store on the 17th of June and so on and so forth. This is like when we actually start our sales. We are going to be setting up our store with a bunch of equipment and things like that. So that's going to be something that we're going to be looking forward. So yeah, so that's the activity there. Here's your chart of accounts, right? So again, this is what you're going to be needing to use in order to identify what transactions need to be done, right? So you simply just look at the transactions, ask yourself, what has happened? And then going from there, you go ahead and take a look in your chart of accounts if you see anything remotely like that, right? And of course, I've already provided the journal and the ledger for you. Now, for this class, this is what I'm going to have you guys do. Since the accounting steps is that we are going to journalize everything first and then post to the ledger, then do the trial balance. In this case, since you guys are beginners of bookkeeping, right? I'm going to go ahead and have this rule stick with you guys so then it makes it a little more easier to keep track of. So once we finish our journal, I'm going to have you guys post immediately to the ledger. Okay, because the most important thing is that you should be needing to know how much money you have in your bank account at all times. Okay, so for that instance, I want you to, every time we do a journal, you're going to post to the general ledger immediately. Okay, because usually what happens is you're supposed to finish all your journals for the week and then complete and then post it to the ledger and then do your trial balance. But in this case, like I mentioned, right, I want you to get used to this habit so then we don't have to wait till the very end of the week to realize that we have a mistake. Now, in this case, this is where, since we are beginner bookkeepers, this is where we're going to be making the most mistakes. Now, the beauty of having technology or, having pen and paper, right? You can erase and scratch out because this is your time for learning. So for any instances that you have a miscalculation or you have journalized the wrong thing, I'm going to give you full range to go ahead and scratch it out and rewrite it in there or erase it and write it in there. Or in this case, we could retype over it and enter it in there. Okay? Now, again, the chart of accounts is right here. I do recommend you to have the accounting model on hand as well, just so then you can kind of understand the flow of how a journal should work, right? Or how a transaction should work. So that's one of the things I had you guys kind of print out way back when, in the very beginning of class. So that will be something that could be very, very useful for you. So yeah. So let's go ahead and get started with our very first scenario here. So now that I have everything already open, this is how I'm going to be showing you how to do everything It's going to have the scenario on the side like this, and whatever form that I need to use, whether it's my ledger, subledger, or general ledger, I will have them side by side like this, right? Just because it's much easier and it's definitely much more efficient, especially because you will be needing to use your worksheets in a orderly fashion. Okay. So, all right. So this is the best I can do. I do apologize if you guys do have a small screen, but I mean that's the purpose of having these recordings, so we are able to go over the information again. Okay. So here on May 31st, it's Friday, and Bob's friend, okay, he works at the bank, and he decided to let Bob know that there was a small coffee shop business that was actually filing for bankruptcy and is currently being short sailed, okay, or it's currently on sale, short sailed at the market. So what does Bob do? Bob does is he decides to take a look at the fair market value of the assets. Okay, so in this case, that bankrupt coffee shop had a total assets to be equal to. So he has furniture that's worth $4,000, and he has a coffee brewer that's worth $1,900. So grand total was $5,900. Okay, and Bob decides to put in a bid, and he offers to buy the entire business for $8,000. Okay, so then we're going to need to calculate the goodwill, because in this case he got approved, so that means he generated goodwill from this purchase of the business. So in this case, right, the business is only currently $5,900, and he decided to pay $8,000 for the business. How much is his goodwill?
$3,000. 3,000.
Okay, so take a look at this. My fair market value of assets is $5,900, and you purchased the business for $8,000. You're close. How did you generate your goodwill?
2,100.
2,100 is the goodwill, right? So if you remember in chapter 11.5, right? How does the goodwill get generated? Well, in this case, since it was a pre-existing coffee shop, right? We basically are buying the brand name, right? We're buying out the coffee shop, but we're going to continue its operations as a coffee shop. So in this case, we have hopes or Bob has hopes that he can turn this business around, and so he earned goodwill out of it for $2,100. Okay, good. Now, can I journalize this? What did Bob do? Bob bought the business, right?
Yes, it can be journalized.
Why?
Because it's the beginning of the business, and you need to have some kind of documentation uh, or some kind of proof that the business was bought.
Well, did we establish our business yet?
We're in the process of it.
Where does it say that we actually establish our business? We just bought the property, or we just basically bought the business. But did we establish our business yet?
No.
Did we what else did we not establish? What's that one principle that allows us to make a separation between business and personal?
It's the gap principle.
Right, but what is it called?
Ooh.
What's that print? What's that
Economic entity?
economic entity? Do we have a business bank account?
No.
Exactly. So in this case, unfortunately, we are unable to record this because, first off, we don't have a business bank account. Second of all, where's this $30,000 coming from? Is it coming from Bob's bank or the business bank?
It's the business bank.
Did we open a business bank?
No, not yet.
No, not yet. We haven't even established ourselves as a business yet either. So in this case, this is a personal transaction that Bob encountered, right? He bought the business from his personal checking account. So in this case, this is a personal transaction. Even though we understand, yes, it's for a business, but in this case, we can't record it as a business transaction because we don't have the fundamental foundations to be able to. We don't have a business license. We haven't even established ourselves as a business yet. We decided to buy. Bob just decided to just buy a business on his own terms, on his own personal transactions. So in this case, right now, we are unable to record it because we don't have a business bank account. This is a personal transaction that's coming from his personal bank account. So in this case, that's definitely rule number one, is that business or economic assumption. We cannot and should not mix business versus personal because we don't have, again, the fundamentals. We don't even have a business bank account. So in this case, we have to keep this in mind or keep in the back of our heads that we bought a business, but right now it's under our personal bank account. Right? So we bought a business for $8,000. So we acquired furniture, a coffee brewer, and we got some goodwill out of it. Right? So let's see what happened next. Okay. So it's June 3rd, and we decided to apply for a DBA name, which stands for Doing Business As. Okay, so there is a local website that you can go to for the state of Nevada to apply for a Doing Business As license, right? So it's a license that you apply to from the state. And what this does is this creates this creates the business name, and we're gonna change it to Coffee Cafe. So in this case, we had to pay some court and legal fees because right now, what is the business name? We don't really know what it was before, but we know that if we're buying out the business, that means the business is keeping its own name because we're continuing its operations. So in this case, we need to first change the name first before we can be able to apply for a business license using the new name. So in this case, it costs us $25 to pay for the court fees to change the name legally to Coffee Cafe. All right? So, do we journalize this transaction?
Yes.
Why?
Because you're applying for the business license and you got to show how much money that you're using at the time.
Okay, but what was the first thing that we talked about like 5 minutes ago? Why can't we journalize anything?
Okay, you said because it's a personal.
Right, do we have have we established our business bank account yet?
No.
So no, unfortunately this is another personal
Personal.
transaction because we don't have a business bank account yet. It's not established yet. So, of
Okay.
course, that means Bob is very busy, but he can't just open up a business bank account just whenever because he doesn't have a business name.
Mm-hmm.
So, first things has to happen first. He buys the business on his own personal. He needs to change the name first, and then he needs to apply for a business license. And then once that's established, then he can open up a business bank account because he has the business name and so on and so forth. Okay? So there you go. All right. So that's another transaction we have to keep in mind. All right. So that very next day, on Tuesday, June 4th, he decides to apply for the Nevada State Business License, which costs $250, and as well as the applied for the City Business License as well, which cost $100. Okay, so here's his information, right? He finally changed his name to Coffee Cafe. He's going to establish himself as a sole proprietor. Date is June 4th. The owner's going to be Bob Mason himself. And here's an address with an email and so on and so forth. And this is his phone number. Okay? So here he already bought the business and he found out that the location was here, so he's going to just go ahead and take over the business itself with the exact location. So in this case, there you go. It's on South Decatur. Okay. All right. So once again, can I journalize this? Yes or no?
No.
No, not yet. Okay, because we just applied for our business license and things like that. Okay. So then, that very same day, we decided to open our business checking account at Main Bank of Nevada. Okay. So here we're going to transfer all the rest of the money that we had from the $30,000 that, Bob said he dedicated to invest in his company, right? Right?
Right.
So, how do I journalize it? That means, how do I journalize this? Okay, if I have to recognize that I bought a business, right? And I have money to put in the bank account because you need to put, usually when you open up a bank account, you need to deposit some money in there. Okay, so how do I go ahead and journalize that I have opened up my business bank account? What's the first thing I did when I opened up my bank account?
You do checking?
Yes, because I have to deposit all the money that I'm putting into the business, right?
Right.
Now, how much money do I should I have so far? What did I buy?
You really didn't buy anything because some was already with the business.
Right. But how much money did I say that Bob had to invest in his company?
30,000
Does he have all $30,000 in his hands?
in equity.
In equity, yes. In value, yes. But right now, we need to deposit the money in the bank account. Do we have all $30,000?
No.
Okay, so what did I buy?
You. Mm.
If I don't have all $30,000 in my hands for the business, then what did I buy?
You bought the business license,
Mm-hmm.
uh, the court costs,
Uh-huh.
and the state of Nevada business license.
Okay, we already got that.
The city business license, which was $100.
Okay, what else did we buy? What was the most important thing that we bought?
We bought the building, right?
Yes, we bought the actual business, right? What did the business have?
Furniture and the brewer.
Yes, plus we generated goodwill, right? So
Right.
now that I've established everything that I bought, now that will constitute how much I should have left over remaining, right? So in this
Right.
case, first things first is let's take a look at my chart of accounts, right? Do I have my checking account?
Yes.
What's the account number?
10100.
Good. So now we have their checking account because that's the first thing, right? You open up a bank account. The first thing you're going to do is going to deposit the money in the checking account. Now, the second thing is we bought the business. Is there a furniture account?
Yes.
All right. What account number is that?
1300.
1300. Do I have a coffee brewer account?
Yes.
Yes, you do. What account number is that?
15010.
Mm-hmm. And we said we generated goodwill from buying the business, right? Do we have goodwill?
Yes.
Yes, we do. 19100. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, what about my business license? Okay. Is there anything on this list that has a business license in it?
License and permit
Like
expense?
permits
Ooh,
expense.
exactly. License and permit expense. So 6,600. Good. And last but not least, do I have equity, an owner's equity account?
Yes.
Yes, you should, right? So in this case, yes, we do have owner's equity because just like you said, we invested $30,000 into my company. So therefore, my original investment should be that $30,000. But of course, I end up buying things for the business. So in this case, how much money should I have left in my business, right? Well, let's go ahead and lay out my journal first, okay? Now in this case, right, I'm starting on page 1 of my journal here. So make sure that's page 1. So what's today's date?
June 4th.
It's June 4th, right? We said we are established our bank account, right? So therefore, am I increasing my checking account or am I decreasing my checking account?
Increasing.
You're increasing, right? You're depositing money. Okay? Now, there you go, checking. Now, what's my PR? My PR is going to be my account number that I have in my chart of accounts. So in this case, this was 10100, right? Right now, we need to figure out how much money we have left over. So right now, we'll calculate what that is later. Okay? Now, we said that we bought the business, which came with furniture. Okay? 13,000. Now, how much was my furniture? How much did my furniture cost me?
4,000.
It cost you $4,000, right? Okay.
Mhm.
Now, did you increase your fixed assets or did you decrease your fixed assets?
Increase.
Increase. So therefore, I'm going to debit that. Now, what else did I gain?
Coffee brewer.
Right. So you are going to increase your fixed assets once again because you purchased the coffee brewer. Okay, that should be 15,010. How much was my coffee brewer?
1900.
Good. And then we said that we generated goodwill, which was account number, I think it was 19,100. Okay. How much did we calculate goodwill to be?
2100.
2,100. Okay. And then we said we bought some license and permit expense. Okay. which was 6,600. Now, in this case, right, what is going to be it? How much money did I spend on license and permit expense?
$375.
$375, right? Because we paid $250 for the state, we paid $100 for the city, and we paid $25 to change the business name, right? So we spent $375, right? Now, and then so that was all all the things that I bought for my business. Now, in grand total, how much did I invest into my company? Right? Owner's equity is the value of your company. So because we originally invested money into the company, how much was that total value?
Okay, owner's equity is $30,000.
$30,000, right? So then, how much should be my grand total amount that I'm going to deposit into my checking account?
$21,625.
Good. Because that's exactly how much cash I should have left in my checking account, right? Or that I have left to put in my checking account. So 21,625. There you go. Now my journal is evened out on both sides. My debit and my credits match. So now that I have this is the completion of my journal. I just need to add my last thing, which is the description. So in this case, you could say what? What would you say here? You could say you opened your business bank account. Okay, at Main Bank of Nevada. Okay, you purchased a business for $8,000, and then you had Nevada license, city license, and court cost. Okay, and there you go. So there you go. Now I completed my journal. Okay. So then, now that I finished my journal, right, I now can go ahead and post it to my ledger so I can know what my running balance is at all times. So let's start with the very first one here where, okay, so we're going to be plugging our numbers into my ledger, my general ledger. So my general ledger is going to be every single account that exists in my chart of accounts, and they're going to all have a running balance. So we're going to go through it one at a time. So I'm going to go through my assets, right? First thing, what you're going to do is you're going to copy everything that you see in your journal, okay? The only difference is now you're going to actually be having a running balance. Excuse me. So in this case, right, my very first account that I have on my journal here is my checking account, right? Because I deposited money in there. So in this case, I'm going to go to my assets and I'm going to locate my checking. So it should be the very second table in your general journal or general ledger. Okay? Right? So in this case, I'm going to plug in everything including the date. Okay? So today's the 4th, right? So what is your item here? Your item's going to be anything that you want to put, so your notes. Now in this case, I'm going to go ahead and put in opening balance in checking account. Okay. Opening balance in checking account, or you opened up your bank, right? Now your notes and my notes do not have to be the same, because again, it's whatever notes that makes it easy for you to understand. Right? Now I'll be using my kind of system to go ahead and record this. You do not need to do the same for me. If you want to add more information, by all means, these are your books, not my books. Okay? But in this case, at the end of the day, the numbers should be matching 100%. Okay? But the notes that you put in here is whatever notes that you want to put in here. Now, what is this post reference going to be? This post reference is going to be the journal page of where this transaction is currently located at. So in this case, which page of my journal am I on right now?
1.
We're on our first general journal page, so that's exactly what I'm going to use. I'm going to use general journal page 1. So in this case, GJ, right? General journal page 1, right? And that will be my means to have my reference point. So in this case, that means, how do I know that this transaction occurred? Well, it occurred on my first general journal page. Okay? Now, exactly how you have it in your journal, what did I do?
You debited 2165.
Exactly. 21,625. I debited it in my journal, so therefore it's going to appear in my ledger the same. Okay? I'm going to debit it into my ledger the same. Okay? Okay? So right now, right, so since I journalized it as my debit, right, what would be my balance in my checking account?
A debit.
It would be a debit balance of how much?
The same.
Exactly, right? Right now, if I start out with 0 and then I just debited my account for 21,625, therefore, after this transaction, I now have $21,625 in my checking account. Okay? So that's how the general ledger works. So every time you add money to this, the balance will increase. Every time I pay for something, the balance will decrease. Okay? So this is why you would normally have a debit balance, because you're increasing your checking account, right? Most oftentimes you are. Okay? So good. Now that was it. I have to go through every single account that I listed out in my journal. So in this case, second one here is I have furniture. Okay? So I'm going to scroll down until I find my furniture. Okay? Now for those of you who have the paper one, best way you could look it up is by the account number. I usually find that much more helpful to use the account number to locate it. So in this case, it is 1,300. So I have to keep scrolling. There you go, furniture. Now in this case, right, you could say that you purchased the furniture from way back when. Okay, so purchased on furniture on May 31st, right? That's when you bought the business, right?
Yes.
Now, right now, I never specified what this furniture was. Why? Because I have no intentions in keeping them. Especially because we don't know what happened in the last coffee shop. So in this case, we do have a means to get rid of this furniture. So we don't necessarily need to put too much details, but we could say that we acquired the furniture because eventually we're just going to sell the furniture. So we don't care to know what that furniture item is. So again, post reference, it's our first general journal. How much did I purchase the furniture for?
4,000.
$4,000. So therefore, I should have a debit balance of
4,000.
good. Okay. Next item on the list here is a coffee brewer. Okay. Here you go. My coffee brewer account's right here. Okay. I can also say that I purchased my coffee brewer since I'll give you a hint here. We are going to be making another purchase of a coffee brewer, so you could say this is coffee brewer number 1. On May 31st. Okay. Post reference once again, General Journal page 1. Now, how much did I buy my coffee brewer for?
1,900.
Okay. Okay. Let's see what's next. So now that I put my coffee brewer in there, I need to go ahead and update my goodwill here. So goodwill should be towards the very bottom of your asset pages. Here it is, goodwill. Right? Where did this goodwill come from? You could go ahead and say purchased business name, okay, on May 31st. General journal, right? We're still on page 1. And how much did I generate for goodwill?
2,100.
2,100. So therefore, my account balance is 2,100, right? Because if I start from 0 and I added a debit for 2,100, therefore you should have a debit balance for 2,100. Okay. Let's see what's next. Next is license and permit expense. Okay. So in this case, rule of thumb here. Now, equity is obviously going to come before my expenses, right? Because it's supposed to be assets, liabilities, equity. revenues, and then my expenses. In this case, because we are beginner bookkeepers, I want you to go in the exact order that you placed in your journal. Because chances are, if you decide to hop around, you're most likely to forget to go back to that account. And that's exactly where, when we run our trial balances, that's why we have discrepancies, because we skipped around. Now, again, sometimes we might miss it and accidentally skip over it without, intentionally skipping over it. So that's why it's very important that when you are doing your journal and transferring the information to your ledger, you are paying close attention to everything that you're doing, right? Is the numbers matching up the numbers in your journal? Because that's exactly what you're using. You need to use your journal in order to post to the ledger, right? You cannot post to the ledger without posting to the journal. Yes.
Uh, how do you know that the business name was 2100? Is it Goodwill?
Yeah, this is Goodwill, yes. Remember, we calculated it. We paid $8,000 for a business that was only worth $5,900. We calculated this in the very beginning.
Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now that's what I want you guys to do. Is I don't want you guys to skip around, because again, this is business. This is bookkeeping practice. Okay. So for beginners, especially for beginners, um, you have to pay very, very close attention to everything that you're doing now, especially transferring from journal to ledger, right? You can make many mistakes, such as typing in them wrong, right? You might do 56 instead of 65, okay? So that's why it's very, very crucial that you do pay attention to everything that you do. So in this case, I'm on my Goodwill, so the very next account I have is my license and permit expense. Okay, so it's very, very crucial that you do pay attention, because this is where most mistakes can happen during transfer from journal to ledger. Okay? And it happens often when you're moving a little too quick too, because when you move a little too fast, right, you might have the tendency to, push the wrong number because you're trying to get through it quickly. So in this case, it's not a race. It's not anything other. You just take your time. But the idea here is that you don't want to make any mistakes here. But don't forget, this is our practice time, right? So if we do make that mistake, we will be able to locate it pretty quickly, right? So I'm going to go to my tabs here. I'm going to go to expenses, because that's what that's where my license and permit expense are. Now, if you notice this, I organize my chart of accounts based by my account numbers. My first 10,000 accounts are my assets. My 20,000 accounts are my liabilities. My 30,000s are my equity. 40,000s are my income. 50,000s is my cost of goods sold. And then last but not least, my 60,000s are going to be every single expense that I have here. Okay. So in this case, since we know this is a per license and permit expense, that is a operating expense. So in this case, here I am on operating expense, and now I need to just locate where license and permit expense is. Now I already went ahead and put it in alphabetical order for you. So license and permit expense right here. Okay, 6-4. Okay. So what I'm gonna do here is what did my business license and permit entail? Well, we had to pay for Nevada state license, right? That was $250. We had to pay a city license for $100. Or let me put a plus sign in there so you know that it's added there. City license for $100. And then we had to pay court cost to change the business name for $25. Okay? And then this was on General Journal, page 1, for a total of $375. Now, with Excel, again, you can double check your numbers by adding them up. So again, we can go ahead and put the formula directly into the cell saying, what's 250 plus 100 plus 25, right? And that will give you your exact number of 375. So again, this one is to double confirm that your calculation for your business permit license is correct for $375. Okay? And so because I left it unformatted, right? That is your ability if you prefer to have accounting style, if you would prefer to have number style, or if you prefer to have comma style. However you want to display your worksheets, I left it for you guys to go ahead and do, right? Sometimes that the number sign can be very confusing because if you look on a screen, it looks very close to a 5. So if you don't prefer to use the number symbol, you could go ahead and not have that. I have it set as comma style so I avoid making that extra mistake. Okay? So in this case, we want to make sure, right, that everything looks good. Right? Right? So this case, I have my business license and permit already in my ledger. Okay. It is imperative that you completely finish every single account that's on your journal because then that's another room for mistake because you forgot to put in an account in here. So again, now that I did my business license and permit expense, I now need to complete my last account, which is my owner's equity. So owner's equity, we're going to go to my equity accounts. Okay, so here you go, owner's equity. Okay, 6-4, and I'm going to say original investment. Okay? And this is where you have to pay close attention as well, too. What did I put my owner's equity as in my journal? A debit or a credit?
A credit.
We put it in as a credit. So again, very, very important. So you don't make this mistake as well, is that because I have it laid out exactly on my ledger as debit, credit, then the balance, right? It is important that you know that whatever you put in your journal, you're going to put it into your ledger exactly the same. So in this case, I have a credit balance. So that's why it's very important that you don't make that mistake and accidentally debit this account when this should be a credit. Okay? So $30,000. So what kind of account balance would I have for my owner's equity?
A credit.
You would have a credit balance. So in this case, we're not going to use the debit column. We're going to skip over that, and then this is what's going to happen. So that's why it's very important that you do pay attention again, because again, a lot of mistakes can happen when you're transferring information from one worksheet to another. So that's exactly what I did here. Okay. I transferred exactly the $30,000 properly into my credit account. Okay. And now I'm completely done with my journal because I'm completely done with my ledger as well. Okay. All right. All right, so that's as far as we're dealing with right now. We haven't introduced you to the subsidiary ledger yet, but once we have the subsidiary ledger, or once we come across a transaction that requires a subsidiary ledger, I'll go ahead and show you how to use the subsidiary ledger, okay? All right, so now I'm completely done. And now I can go ahead and move on to the next transaction, okay? So it says here that you end up applying for a line of credit from Maine Bank of Nevada. Okay? So do I journalize this transaction?
Yeah.
Why?
You would. It's a line of credit. It's money that's you got it as a loan.
Okay. Do I know how much I got?
No.
So my question is this an actual transaction? Was money exchanged?
No.
That's the number one thing you need to look for, because remember, if you go back to the 7 steps of transaction analysis, did a transaction occur?
No.
In this case, a way to determine whether a transaction has occurred is, was there money being involved? In this case, no. What did you do?
You just applied for it.
You just applied for it. You haven't even gotten approved for it. So in this case, no transaction has occurred. All you did was just apply for a line of credit. Okay, so in this case, you should get the bank notification within 24 hours or 48 hours. Or, there's always a process to this, right? Because they're processing your application. So in this case, all we simply did was apply. We don't even know how much we've got for the line of credit. We don't know what the terms are. So if there is, in case we do get a line of credit, what are the payment plans? What are the circumstances? What are the terms? Am I going to be charged interest for borrowing this line of credit? So there's a lot of things that are left unanswered, right? All we simply did was just apply for a line of credit. There's no amount necessary on there. So in this case, if we get denied, then we get denied. Well, I'll also make note of that. If I get approved, then I need to know how much I got. So in this case, nothing is here. No need to transaction, because there is no transaction that actually has happened. Right? All we did was simply apply. Right? All right. So same day, we decided to sell our furniture for $2,000 cash. Okay? And we end up requesting a new ledger account for to record the loss. Okay? Now in this case, I got $2,000 worth of cash out of my furniture. How much did I originally purchase my furniture for?
4,000.
So did I gain money or did I lose money?
You lost money.
You lost money. So in this case, let's take a look at my chart of accounts. Okay? So in this case, right, what's the first thing I need to recognize? What did I get out of this sale of furniture?
Cash.
You got cash, okay? Now, do I have a cash account?
It would be your checking.
Yes. So in this case, where every dollar that we earn, we're going to deposit it into our checking account. So in this case, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to put it into our checking account. Good. Okay? Now let's see what's next. I got $2,000 cash out of it. I have to record a loss, right? And I'm also getting rid of my furniture, right? So we already know we have a furniture account, right? Now, we need to figure out, do I actually have a loss account? So take a look at your expenses. Do I have any account that's in remotely to a loss?
Is it loss on disposal of asset?
That is correct, right? Which is account number 6700. All right, so let's journalize this transaction. Okay. So, what did we say we were going to do with the cash? We were going to deposit it into our checking account, right?
Right.
How much money did we receive?
2,000.
$2,000, okay? Now, for my loss on disposal of assets, it's an expense account. Did I increase the loss or did I decrease the loss?
Decrease.
You decrease the loss, so you gain the money. So the question here is, did I incur this expense or did I not incur the expense?
You didn't incur the expense.
What do you mean? I just took a loss. Didn't I not incur it?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. So in this case, yes, we had a loss. Okay, which we said was 6,700, right? Now in this case, I don't know how much I lost. Okay, let's just we'll hold that number on for later. Okay. Now in this case, am I increasing or decreasing my furniture?
Decreasing.
So, what is that going to tell me? How do I decrease an asset?
Appreciate.
Okay, in this case, I'm getting rid of my asset, so I'm not depreciating it. So the question I'm asking is, am I going to debit the account or am I crediting the account?
You're going to credit the account.
You're going
to debit.
Am I increasing my furniture or decreasing my furniture? I just sold it.
Decrease.
You're decreasing it, right? So what would you use, a debit or a credit? How do I decrease an asset?
You credit it. You credit it.
You credit the account. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Since I'm getting rid of all of my furniture because it's all used by the previous owners. I don't want their stuff. I'm going to get rid of it and try to get every penny out of it. So in this case,
It's how the salvage value.
we already purchased it for $4,000, right? That is the salvage value. And we purchased it for $4,000. Okay? So let's go ahead and verify real quick. Let's take a look at my ledger account. Okay? Even though, yes, I can take a look at my journal right above, right? Because it tells me that I already purchased the furniture for $4,000. Well, I want to double verify this in my ledger so then I can see how much my furniture was actually worth. Okay? So here's my furniture right here. So how much did I originally buy it for?
4,000.
You bought it for $4,000. So if you gained $2,000 cash out of it, how much did you actually lose?
2,000.
You lost $2,000 out of this. Okay? Because I'm going to get rid of all of my furniture. Okay? And now I've finished my journal. So I need to I finished the main portion of the journal. So I need to go ahead and add my description. What had happened here? I got a loss on sale of furniture. Okay? I sold the furniture and I ended up taking a loss. Okay? So, now that my journal's complete, what do I need to do now? I need to plug it into my ledger.
What difference?
Okay? I need to plug it into my ledger. Starting with the first one here, right? I'm going to go in order in the journal that I have it here, right? My debits go first, my credits go last, okay? So, first things first is I gained some money, right? I gain money on sale for the furniture. So that's what my notes is going to be. Sale on furniture. Okay? We're still on general journal page number 1. How much did I put in my journal for? How much did I debit my checking account for?
$2,000.
$2,000. Now this is how you're going to be utilizing this general ledger. If I'm depositing $2,000 into my checking account, how much money should I have in my checking account?
$23,625.
You now have $23,625, right? Now, how did I figure that out? Well, if I started out with my balance of $21,625, I just deposited and increased my checking account by $2,000, then therefore I should have $23,625, right? That's very basic general information, right? We know that for a fact that I just deposited more money into my checking account. Therefore, I'm going to increase my account, right? So that's the idea that you have to keep in mind here, right? Now, if you're using the Excel, this is the formula that I want you to use, okay? I want you to go previous cell, which is the 21,625. I'm going to add in that very same row, I'm going to add $2,000, but at the same time, I'm also going to subtract the credit, okay? That way, when I spend money, so for instance, let's say I wrote a check for $1,500, right? If I were to drag and pull this formula down, it will automatically calculate for me that when I spent that $1,500, now my checking is down to $22,000, right? Because I spent the money. So that's what I want you to do as far as the formula. So once again, let's practice that again. So it's going to be up 1 plus left 2 minus left 1. Okay? And then once you get that formula intact, that is exactly where you can go ahead and hit that little green triangle and drag the formula all the way down to the bottom of your page. So now you have a running balance. Okay? So that's just the Excel portion. But if you want to calculate this manually by hand, you could do so. Okay? So that's that one there. Next I have here is loss on disposal of assets. So once again, another operating expense. Okay? Right here, right under license and permit expense is loss on disposal of asset. So I'm going to go ahead and say my note here is loss on sale of furniture. Right? Because I try to sell my furniture and I end up getting a loss on it. I'm still on my first general journal page, and right now I currently have a debit balance of $2,000. So therefore, I should have a debit balance of $2,000. Okay? So then now I need to figure out my last one, which is my furniture. Okay. So I'm going to go to my assets. I'm going to scroll down until I find my furniture. So if you're using Excel, there's quicker ways that you can find your accounts. You can go ahead and do the Control F key and then type in the letter. Now you have to use which row you're looking through in. Okay. Now again, there's not that many accounts under my chart of accounts, so it's unnecessary for you to have to do that. Okay. But in this case, because I'm able to just scroll through the pages and be able to locate it there. Okay. Okay, so here is my furniture. Okay. Now in this case, I'm going to make a note here that I no longer have the furniture, right? Because I sold it. Sold furniture. Okay. I'm still on page general journal number 1. Now, because I sold my furniture, right? What did I end up doing? Did I end up debiting or crediting my account?
Crediting.
You end up crediting it for $4,000. So once again, if I started with a balance of $4,000 and then I sold my furniture for $4,000, or in this case, I got rid of my furniture for $4,000, how much should I have left in my furniture account?
0?
You should have 0, right? Because I got rid of my furniture, right? It's gone. It's off my books now. I don't have my furniture, $4,000 worth of furniture anymore. I sold it. It's gone. So that's how I represent how I use my general ledger, right? We talked about how debits and credits work. It's like a scale, or not a scale, like a number line, right? If you're going to start at 0, which is in the middle, if you go left, right, how do I get back down to 0? Well, you go back right, right? So in this case, if you take 4,000 steps to the left, how do I get back to 0? You have to take 4,000 steps to the right, right? Right. Now that I've finished my journal and my ledger, there's one more thing we need to do, because how does the money get into my bank account?
It's a deposit.
Yes, and that's in real life too. You need to walk to the bank or get however you get to the bank and physically deposit the money. The money's not going to appear in your checking account, right? The
Right.
person that you sold the furniture to you isn't going to deposit that money into your bank account. They gave you cash. So how do I deposit that money into my checking account? That means I'm going to go ahead and be using my deposits. Now in the Word document, it should be attached to your check register. Okay, so on your check register should be check register, deposits, and purchase orders, right? There you go, and you will find your deposit slips there. Okay, so your receipts are going to be the money that you've collected. So in this case, my receipt here is going to be, my first one is going to be for $2,000, right? That's the first thing I did. I collected $2,000, right? Now, since I would normally do this at the end of the day, is usually would be the perfect time to go ahead and deposit the money. You don't ever deposit the money every chance that you get the check, right? So let's say you're running your business and you receive a check from your customer. Are you just gonna leave your business, go run to the bank and deposit that money?
No.
No, you normally would do it at the end of the day. So in this case, right, this is the last transaction for the 4th. So in this case, everything works out just fine. That means at the end of this day right here, the 4th, after we sold our furniture, we went ahead and made our deposit. So in this case, oh wait, I put the wrong column in the wrong column. Okay, so in this case, receipt, right? You could put in whatever note you want to put in here. So in this case, we had sale on furniture. Or in this case, you could say cash. Okay. Amount for $2,000. Okay. Okay. What's today's date? Today's the 4th, right? It's the end of the day. And we're going to deposit this. Now, in this case, you would actually be getting a deposit slip number. But because this is a fictitious business, we're just going to go ahead and say this is deposit slip number 1. Okay. Just because usually this number is actually given to you, but I don't have a real bank institute for this, so I'm not going to be generating numbers randomly. So I'm just going to say this is my deposit number 1. But for most cases, again, you should be given this deposit slip number, right? So every time you deposit the money into the bank account, whether it's via ATM or whether you go inside the bank, they're going to give you a copy of your deposit number to let you know how many deposits have you made so far. Now, in this case, that's what I'm trying to say. Here is, I don't know what that number is. So I'm going to call this deposit slip number 1. And how much did you deposit? Well, if I only had $2,000 worth of cash, then I deposited only $2,000 into my bank account. Okay? All right. Everybody good so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So this is where I'm going to stop here for now. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll continue where we left off, okay? Starting with the 5th of June. Okay? So save your work, okay? Whether it's on the computer or on your table,